Since its founding in 1999, the world watched SolarWinds grow from a small software company to a trusted IT management giant. By 2020, their Orion platform monitored networks for over 300,000 customers worldwide, including the U.S. Treasury, the Department of Commerce, parts of the Pentagon, and Fortune 500 companies. During this time, SolarWinds built a reputation for reliability and security, becoming embedded in the critical infrastructure of governments and corporations across the globe. Yet, in December 2020, they fell victim to what experts call the most sophisticated supply chain attack in history. It was the final revelation in a string of compromises that had been unfolding silently for months, maybe years. How could one of the world's most trusted software vendors become the weapon that compromised thousands of organizations? Well, after months of meticulous planning, years of operational discipline, and exploitation of implicit trust, Russian intelligence operators turned legitimate software into a Trojan horse. In 2019, a backdoor was quietly woven into the SolarWinds Orion platform. The operation, later attributed to APT-29, Russia's foreign intelligence service, was methodical. It masqueraded as routine software updates distributed by SolarWinds themselves, digitally signed with their own certificates. Organizations downloading what they believed were security patches were actually installing malware. These supply chain attacks caused the cybersecurity community's confidence to spiral into crisis, and as a result, paranoia reared its ugly head amongst defenders in the form of zero trust. In the spring of 2020, a sophisticated backdoor was quietly distributed to SolarWinds customers via legitimate update channels. The malware, called Sunburst, was elegant. It masqueraded as a digitally signed component of the Orion software framework, so victims believed it was legitimate. The update promised business as usual, the standard security patches and performance improvements, in exchange for installation on systems monitoring critical infrastructure such as network configurations, server health metrics, system performance data, and even administrative credentials, which the malware extracted via its command and control infrastructure. It's believed the information gathered from infected systems was used to identify high-value targets in government and private sector networks, such as email servers, cloud environments, and source code repositories. This ultimately allowed ATP-29 operators to analyze weaknesses and strengths of victim organizations' security postures by turning the Orion platforms into real-time intelligence nodes with the help of a domain generation algorithm, or DGA. The DGA is an advanced technique for command and control that was implemented through DNS queries after the malware completed its dormancy period. The DGA included features such as encoding victim domain names into subdomains, allowing selective targeting of organizations, dynamic C2 resolution to evade detection, and IP-based kill switches for sandbox environments, essentially turning trusted software into a live espionage platform. Once deployed, Sunburst could execute commands, transfer files, profile systems, extract data from mailboxes and repositories, and even disable security services, essentially turning networks into open books for Russian intelligence. With every installation, ATP-29 operators gained further insight into which agencies were vulnerable, what defenses were deployed, and even how security teams were responding. It's unknown how many SolarWinds customers will ultimately compromise for follow-on activity, but according to investigators, it was found that approximately 18,000 organizations installed the Trojanized update between March and May 2020. It's believed that the selection of targets for deeper exploitation is what led to the successful exfiltration of the sensitive data from government agencies and corporations in the weeks before public disclosure. To this day, nobody knows exactly when ATP-29 initially compromised SolarWinds' build environment or who the specific operators were behind Sunburst. However, it was someone who knew supply chains were a viable threat vector, someone who knew they could capitalize on the implicit trust organizations placed in software vendors they rely on daily. In February 2020, months before the public learned of Sunburst, ATP-29 had already deployed additional malware families. What preceded was a masterclass in operational security. It's suspected that the operators responsible were highly trained intelligence professionals due to the use of a previously unseen memory-only dropper called Teardrop, which did not leave traditional forensic artifacts that defenders were accustomed to finding. Nevertheless, it also appears that the Sunburst backdoor is only part of a much larger operational capability. ATP-29 has continued to evolve and refine its operational and behavioral tactics, techniques, and procedures to better obfuscate activity and limit its digital footprint to avoid detection. The group has been steadily advancing tradecraft and adopting new measures as new technologies emerge. This has been emphasized as a matter of certainty.